Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be having a look at the 5 brand new Tier 8 and Tier 9 premium tanks in the large boxes for Holiday Ops 2025. We've got the DZT-159, a Chinese medium tank at Tier 9. We have the Toro, an Italian heavy tank at Tier 9. We have the FV-226 Contradict, a British heavy tank at Tier 8. We have the XM57, an American tank destroyer at Tier 8. And we have the VZ-68 Squall, a Czechoslovakian light tank, also at Tier 8. Let's have a look at these in detail. First of all, we have the FV-226 Contradict. This tank is the brand new British heavy tank with the double barrel mechanic for the new upcoming Tier 7 to Tier 10 British heavy tank line. It has a brand new mechanic that essentially is a double barrel without the penalty of having a double barrel. So we've got a really nice base DPM, an alpha damage of 360. It's not very quick. Your base dispersion values in single shot mode are okay, the aim time's okay. It's a decent tank, however it's got this mechanic that once you're in, it basically doubles your alpha, so you do 720, however at the cost of going slower forwards and having really bad dispersion and aim time. So it's a bit of a trade-off. It's going to be kind of a situational mechanic, but it's interesting. This is its armor model. It's pretty nice. Its turret is really quite reliable against Tier 8s, Tier 9s, and even some Tier 10s. It has a cupola, but its hull is pretty much butter. Let's have a look now at the Toro. So, the Toro is the Tier 9 Italian heavy tank. It has an autoloader, so a traditional Italian heavy tank gun. It has a decent base DPM. It's not incredible, but it's okay. It's got 4 rounds. It has a clip potential of 1440 damage, which it can do in 9 seconds. With a 3-second interclip reload, it's okay. Its gun handling's really actually alright for an Italian heavy. 0.34 dispersion, 2.4 seconds aim time. It's not horrendously slow, but you might want to run a turbo on it still. 45 forward, 18 in reverse. And it has quite a lot of HP, actually, quite interestingly. It is a rear turreted tank, so it gives its armor a little bit of a funky appearance. So its turret is really quite reliable, even against heat. There are some weak points. However, it does have a pretty big cupola, and its hull is going to be pretty easily pennable for even standard rounds frontally, with it being like 180 as it's finished. So, let's have a look at the DZT-159. This is the upcoming Tier 9 Chinese medium tank. This has got rocket boosters, so this is going to be the first medium tank in the game with rocket boosters. We've not seen anything like that before. This is going to be a brand new thing for medium tanks, obviously with it being a Chinese mechanic. However, it being pretty limited to heavy tanks, it's now going to come to medium tanks. So this tank is massively buffed. If any of you have seen this thing statistics or my previous video on this tank, it's been pretty heavily buffed since then. It now has a decent DPM of 2200, 440 alpha. However, its gun handling still is pretty poor. 2.7 seconds aim time, 0.38 dispersion. That's really not great. However, its base speed of 40 is quite slow, but when you use those rocket boosters, it massively helps. You're going 68 in a tank that is heavy. So this thing is going to be a little bit of a ramming monster. You know, this thing's 45 tons. You know, that's heavy. That's like Super Conqueror weight, but it can go 68 forwards. So this is going to be a bit of a ramming beast with its rocket boosters. However, it is a little bit slow without them, so do bear that in mind. It has 7 uses, however, so that's quite a lot of uses. Armor-wise and HP-wise, it's pretty nice. This tank looks a little bit funky. It's got a very flat turret, but interestingly, it's actually kind of okay. You know, it's only really going to be weak to Tier 9 and Tier 10 rounds, so Tier 8's good luck penning it. This thing has tiny cupolas, so, you know, think of that as what you wish. However, this thing's hull is bloody huge, and the entire thing is like an auto pen for anything at Tier 8. So do bear that in mind. This thing is not going to be the greatest when it's not in a hull down. However, with its gun depression, it does hide those cupolas. So in a hull down, this thing is going to be absolutely terrifying. But if you can catch it out in the open with, you know, absolutely zero gun depression usage, this thing's hull is just absolute butter. So let's have a look at the VZ-68 Squall now. This is the Czech light tank. So this is the auto cannon Czech light for the Tesac line that we had back in the summer. This thing is pretty interesting. So it is essentially a slightly worse Blesk, which is the tier 8 tech tree. It's got a clip damage of 800 that it does in 3.6 seconds. That's okay. However, its gun handling really isn't great. So you do have to bear that in mind. And obviously, as you fire, it does bloom out. So you do have to consider that. This thing might be okay if you're firing it in short bursts. But if you're trying to clip out at anything less over 50 meters, you will struggle. It does definitely lack in its kind of scout potential. It's not the quickest. It's pretty slow. 55 forwards is definitely the lower end of light tanks. You know, medium tanks will beat you into position pretty easily, especially like things like the Brask. You're limited in your gun depression only being 6 degrees. You have absolutely 0 armor. You have low HP. It's got okay camo values, considering it's quite big, but it's not the greatest, and you only have 380 meters view range. So this tank is not really great at shooting or being a light tank. It's kind of a little bit of a medium, almost treat it like a medium tank in a sense at spots. So it's not going to be the greatest at spotting, but it can do damage, but obviously only really at short range. And as I said, this thing is an absolute HE magnet. I mean, it just pens itself pretty reliably in most spots with HE, especially at the back and the sides. And it's huge, so do bear that in mind. So if we look, it's like a medium tank trying to do a light tank's role. So do bear that all in mind. It's definitely not the best. However, its DPM is pretty nice if you can use it. But it is limited once again. You know, if you fire standard, you only have 182 millimeters of penetration, which is not great at tier 8. And that obviously does limit your damage because you want to fire gold. So your DPM drops down to 1580, which is not great once again. So let's have a look at the final tank, which is on the thumbnail, and I promise you it is not clickbait. This tank is a little bit scary. This is the XM57. It's a little bit of an enigma, let's put it that way. So it has an okay base DPM. It's not the greatest. However, its DPM is very much packed into its alpha. So it has 630 alpha damage. That's quite high for a tier 8 tank destroyer. However, its gun handling is atrocious. It has 2.8 seconds aim time and 0.41 dispersion. 0.41 dispersion is, I believe, one of the worst for a tank destroyer at tier 8 that doesn't have like a siege mode mechanic. Not great at all. It's slow as anything. It goes 24 forwards, 12 in reverse. So it is like it's like a T95, but at tier 8. And we'll get on to what I mean by that. It has 7 degrees of gun depression, which is okay. It has a decent amount of HP at 1300. It has actually a decent amount of view range for a tier 8 at 370 meters, so it can kind of pseudo spot for itself. But let's have a look at this thing's armor. Yeah, okay. In a hull down, this thing's going to be pretty strong, let's put it that way. If it can hide this absolutely enormous hull, it's going to be good. Because it's packing high penetration for, well, not the greatest penetration, but high penetration rounds, 630 alpha, in a turret that, you know, even tier 10s are going to struggle to pen if they hit you around your gun mantlet area. This thing is kind of just a little bit of a freak. It looks like a freak, you know, and it is a little bit of a freak in my opinion. It has got these areas where you can pen it, but even then it's not like particularly thin, you know. At its finished, it's like 240, so like tier 8 heavies are going to struggle to pen this if they're firing standard. And its hull, you know, it's weak in areas, but it's still over 200 millimeters, so it is not, you know, horrendous. It's just not the best. But yeah, these are the brand new Tier 8 and Tier 9 premium tanks in the 2025 Holiday Ops Large Boxes. Some brand new mechanics in there. So we've got the Contradict, bringing the brand new British heavy tank mechanic. We finally are getting the premium tank for the Czechoslovakian light tank line in the Squall. We have the DZT being the first medium tank to have rocket boosters. And then we have some freaky tanks like the Toro and the XM57. I think they're looking really good this year. I like it. I think probably if I was to rank the tanks here, I'd say the Contradict is looking like the best, then the XM57, then the DZT-159, then the Toro, and then the Squall. I like it. It's a good range of tanks here. Do I think any of them are going to be overpowered? Absolutely not. I think these are all really, really well balanced, really sensible tanks that are going to be good for the game. So, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about these tanks. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Are you going to be picking up any loot boxes? And I'll see you all in the next one.